Okay, so we're going to get started and talk about one of the parts, and one of the parts is your growth goals. So I want to focus on one that you've really worked on this year, which is academic discourse. And I know it's something that, as a school we worked on in our pods, and I definitely have appreciated you taking the time to really think through and ask questions about it and work with it in your pods. And as we've done observations, we've tried to really kind of go back to that and tie it. I know that you were really trying to work on systems to put in place for students to justify their reasoning. And that you had done really well with language of the discipline. We praised you for that a lot, and you've done a really good job with that. And also in terms of discussing academic ideas and really having it be about the content and pushing their thinking further. And I think that you've done a really good job with that. So the one thing that you were working on was justifying reasoning. So looking at the evidence, and we talked about some of the evidence that we gathered from your observations, when I look at the indicator, it really does talk about having all of these three on a consistent basis and really making sure that students are reaching that opportunity for them to justify reasoning. What I'm really looking for too is, are they also pushing each other to justify, and not necessarily having you kind of be the one to pull it. Right now, I scored it as a 2. Really, when it came to, it was kind of inconsistently requires students to do these things, and kind of limited to a smaller number of students instead of a larger group. And so that's kind of where I scored you on this one. Where do you feel you were on this?
I think when I was looking at the rubric, whenever I was working through bits and trying to set the goals for myself in school and then the work I'm doing outside of school, I was kind of aiming for a 3, and I feel like the activities that I planned and the way I was thinking about how I was designing what I was doing was aimed at creating that systemic place for the students to get those 3 avenues. And I feel like at the beginning of the year I was definitely an or person. I would get 1 or 2, and I feel like this has definitely been a place where I've really grown, and I think that pulling cards that I've used and introducing slides that have the because highlighted into our PowerPoints and asking students to be writing more in their exams that require that justification, that was absent at the beginning of the year, and I think that I actually have tried to really zone in on the justify portion. And I think there are ways that I've definitely seen an improvement in student learning that way, and I think it's very consistent on my part. I don't think it's perfect yet. I'm still definitely growing, and I understand now it's teacher facilitated, but I do think that it's a consistent basis, and I do think all kids are required to do that. And so I was kind of shooting for a 3, and I think the stuff that I've done kind of proves a 3.
Okay. So let's take a look at kind of some of the evidence that you brought and some of the things that you've uploaded onto Bloomboard for it, because I definitely, like I said, it's my perception and kind of the work that I did looking at the evidence and scoring it. Okay. But this is a collaborative effort. So let's take a look at some of the things that you've done on Bloomboard and some of the PowerPoints. So I want to appreciate you bringing kind of your evidence and the things that you put into Bloomboard, and I'm really glad that we have that, because you really kind of shifted my thinking when it came to the things that you did in your classroom. Like I said, I think that you've done a great job of continually trying to improve and really push yourself as an educator. And so based on the things that I saw, and going back and looking at the rubric as well, I can agree. And I feel very comfortable giving you that 3 in academic discourse. I think, and I appreciate you bringing that information to me. How does that sound?
Sounds fair. I'm excited about that. I definitely think I'm looking forward to next year, kind of pushing forward one more step. I don't think a 3 is the capability of students yet. I think that they'll be able to lead those discussions next year once I kind of gain more knowledge around how to do that.
So let's talk a little bit about that. I think that's going to be the big push now for you. Really is about it's about you have the structures. How do you go from teacher to student facilitation? And really thinking about now, what are the systems in place that you can put in place for students to really drive that conversation and that academic discourse. But we have the evidence guide, we have the resources, and we definitely will support you with that.